Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. I'm the GM Philosopher, and today we're talking about 4 D&D GM mistakes that you might be making right now without even realizing it, even if you are a fantastic, experienced GM. These mistakes are easy to overlook, and we're going to go all through them. So let's dive in. You're not going to want to miss this. All right, let's start it off with number 1, first D&D GM mistake you might be making without even realizing it right now: not letting players change the story. Not letting players change the story, not allowing player choices to have clear and immersive consequences, both positive and negative. This can be a really big mistake that can lead to players not feeling like they're an immersive, important contributing factor in the game. It can make them feel more like they're watching a story than creating one with their characters. And what is D&D supposed to be? The whole purpose of it is to create the storyline arcs of the characters. The GM is putting the pixels around them, so to speak. But the real story is that story that is following the characters. And when you let characters basically create the story, you are going in a really good track to avoid this problem. If, however, you find that players aren't getting to make the types of choices that are actually changing the story, guess what? This mistake might be creeping up on you, and it might be causing your players to feel like they're not as significant as they would like to feel. And this can take away from the game experience for them. This can leave the game lacking depth, and it can lead to a situation where players feel kind of railroaded. And that leads us to tip number 2. Not pacing games correctly. Now, game pacing is really important. And you could really define pacing like this: the speed at which the story progresses and the breaks allowed for player role-playing and other things in between important story items, okay? Not pacing games correctly can lead to a number of problems, and this can be caused by a number of different issues. For example, not leaving room for roleplay, pushing the game too fast, moving into combat too quickly, not including enough crucial conversations with NPCs. These can all lead to pacing issues, and here's the problem. If your game is paced too quickly, it can lack depth and roleplay, and that kind of seems counterintuitive sometimes, because when you are pushing a game fast, you think to yourself, well, I don't want them to get bored. Like, I don't want my players to get bored. But here's the thing. It can actually create more boredom because it can make it so that the game isn't super interesting or immersive, whereas slowing it down and allowing for deeper role play can make it a lot more interesting and immersive, even if the story is not progressing as fast as you feel like it might need to be. And this is actually a very common mistake made by GMs who have very good intentions, because GMs want to keep the game moving at a good pace, but moving too fast can lead to these unintended, but also not super positive problems. Pacing in a game should feel natural. It should be player-led. Players should feel like their characters' stories are moving forward at a pace that isn't rushed, but that also doesn't feel like it's taking forever. If you just leave a ton of empty space and players are basically role-playing with each other and they're trying to get the story to progress and they're trying to get things rolling, but you as a GM aren't really taking the ball and running with it with them, then this can lead to the game feeling too slow, which I find is generally less common of a problem than the rushing problem, but they are both pacing problems and they can sneak up on you without you realizing it. By the way, do you struggle to come up with plot arcs on the fly? If so, I have the perfect tool for you. It is called My Ultimate Plot Randomizer. It is a free ebook. When you join my email list, you can download this for free. You'll get the link in your first email. It contains 4 D100 tables that will let you roll random plot arcs whenever you need them. Roll the hook, the conflict, and the conclusion, and even add wild and wacky stuff all right there. Download this, print it out, add it to your tool collection, and you will never go without another plot arc again. I give this away for free to help you create awesome plot arcs just like I do. I use this in almost every single session, and you are not going to want to miss out on this, so make sure you grab this. And this leads us to tip number 3, not making full use of the DMG. Now, here's the truth of the matter. You don't need to use the official D&D DMG, which is the Dungeon Master's Guide, to run an awesome game. However, not making use of it, if you do have it available, might be leaving you with fewer awesome options than you even realized you had. For example, here are some things in the DMG that a lot of people just don't realize are there. Information on creating the multiverse and running the multiverse. For example, planar travel, the astral plane, the ethereal plane, the Feywild, etc. Creating adventures. How to structure adventures, different types of adventures. There are complications. There are instructions for creating encounters. There are random encounter tables. There's information about designing NPCs and even resources for designing NPCs. There are a lot of resources for adventure environments. For example, there are resources for mapping dungeons, wilderness, mapping the wilderness survival, creating settlements, etc. There are resources for what to do between adventures, resources for running the game, obviously, stuff like that you wouldn't normally think of, like chases, siege equipment, diseases, poisons, madness. There are also rules and instructions for how to create monsters, how to create new spells that aren't even in the player handbook, how to create new magic items, and even how to create random dungeons. There's resources for literally random rolling dungeons so you can make them as you go. See, a lot of people don't realize that there's actually quite a bit more in the DMG than we give it credit for. And part of the reason is because as GMs, we tend to focus more on the player handbook. Now, this might not be you. I think that this is just a thing that some GMs do. And I have found myself not making full use of these resources, which is why I put it on this list, because to me, this is something that I want to get better at and something that will actually help my teams get better, is using the stuff in the DMG. Hey, real quick, are you tired of rolling the same old dungeon loot using the same old methods time after time, game after game? Well, I have a solution for you. This is how I roll all of my dungeon loot now. It's a book I created called the Ultimate Dungeon Loot Randomizer. This book contains 10 massive D100 tables full of awesome dungeon loot. Roll on a table for mundane items, slightly magical dungeon items, mundane weapons and armor, magical weapons and armor, individual pieces of treasure, magic scrolls, potions and elixirs, cursed items, forgotten wonders and otherworldly relics, and even full chests of treasure and loot. This book is now available on my Blurb bookstore in 3 different versions. There's a hardcover option, a softcover option that's more affordable, and a super affordable digital ebook option. It's even system agnostic, meaning you can use it with any fantasy TTRPG system, and you can just adapt it to the rule set you're using. Link is in the description. Don't miss out. Grab it today. And that's going to lead us to tip number 4. Now, this one might be a little bit controversial to some of you out there, but here it is. Not using AI to enhance your game prep. Now, here's the thing about AI. Whether you're using ChatGPT to help you with some game prep, whether you're using Midjourney or another image generator or Google's AI, whatever it is, there are a lot of AI tools out there that can assist us with game prep. And there are many different levels to which you can use AI to help you with session prep and game prep. And it's also true that not all GMs are going to want or even should at all utilize AI in the same way or to the same degree, but not using it at all could actually be costing you. And let me explain this a little bit. For busy GMs, AI can help to come up with some stuff that maybe you would have come up with anyway, like basic stuff, but stuff that the AI can do relatively simply so that you can just put the creative touches on it. For example, it can take a long time to draw all of your NPCs, whereas you could whip them up in image generators relatively quickly. Another thing is creating henchmen. I just created a video about this not too long ago. You can create interesting D&D henchmen and stuff like that. You can create lists of the items they're carrying, so like inventory lists. You can get them stat blocks created. Now you can go through the books and you can create all these yourself, but literally with just a couple sentences typed and a hit of a button, ChatGPT can generate 90% of this for you, and that can save you a ton of time if you're a busy GM. But saving time isn't the only thing that AI can help with. AI can also help with inspiration. For example, you might type into your AI chatbot, can you give me 10 ideas for an awesome piece of jewelry that has a random magic property, right? And then AI could give you some ideas. Now, none of these ideas might be perfect, and you will doubtlessly have to tweak them, make them a little different. But the point is that sometimes you can get ideas from this in a somewhat kind of random fashion that you might not have ever gotten before. Now, not everyone is just going to want to sit there using AI all through the game session to generate things or to make things and this or that. However, using it in the session prep phase of the process to help give you some cool ideas can sometimes yield results that would have taken you either a lot longer to come up with on your own, or it can yield results that you might actually legitimately may not have thought of. And whether or not you choose to use them is still up to you, but it can be very useful. For example, there was one time when my player characters were fighting on a dock and they were like, we want to look around for weapons because they had no weapons. So they were like, we want to look around, see what we can just grab to use as weapons. And I kind of thought to myself, okay, I happen to have my laptop right there. So I typed it quick into ChatGPT. I was like, hey, will you give me some ideas for improvised weapons the players might find laying around on the dock? And he gave me like this whole list of really cool stuff that I wouldn't have even thought of, just like stuff that was flavored well, stuff that actually kind of corresponded with real weapons in the player handbook, stuff that was just kind of thematically cool that I just wouldn't have thought of. And this was a cool addition. It doesn't mean that I needed to design the whole encounter with AI and just not do any of the creating myself. I think that a lot of times people get down on AI because they feel like if they use it, they're not being creative. But here's the thing, AI doesn't have to replace your creativity. It can just save you time in some cases. And in some cases, it can help you to be even more creative than you would have been. And I also am of the mind that we shouldn't let AI make all of the creation decisions for us. A lot of times the way I will use AI is I will mostly use it to save time. I will use it to create things that I would have created anyway, and it just would have taken me like hours to create instead of a couple minutes, bing, bang, bing, and then I have all the stuff I need right there. And then I can spend my more valuable time working on like the deeper plot lines or fleshing out NPC personalities and things like that. So anyway, not using AI is, in this day and age, actually, in my opinion, a mistake that some GMs make. You do not have to use AI to be an amazing game master, but I believe that every amazing game master could make their games even better, even if just by a little slight margin, if they utilized at least a little bit of AI in some key parts of their session planning and preparing their games to just give them a little extra edge, maybe a little something new, a little pizzazz, just a little something that they might not have thought of, or to help them save a little bit of time, to help them be more prepared, etc. With that being said, I would love to hear what you think about this. Drop me a comment. Let me know what you think about GMs using AI for session prep and for helping them to come up with creative stuff. I would love to hear your opinion on it. And with that being said, that's going to be it for this one. Hey, thank you so much for coming back for another episode of GM Philosophy in the Morning. I'm here every single day creating content about the best game in the world, D&D. So I will see you awesome people on the next one.